Hi, and welcome to Ryvis Rambles, where I talk about whatever the fuck I want. And today I want to talk about Manbiki Kazoku, also known as Shoplifters, by Koreeda Hirokazu. Shoplifters is about a family with very little means to live, using, let's say, unorthodox ways to survive. They find a girl on the street and take her home cause it's freezing outside. They more or less adopt her, albeit not legally, and that's all I can say about the plot without going into spoilers. That's why there are heavy spoilers ahead, and if you're only interested in my opinion, you can jump to this part. The movie starts by showing us that what seems to be a father-son duo is shoplifting at a supermarket. It's obvious that this isn't their first rodeo because they have secret fist bumps and signs. After their successful pilfering, the two find a girl sitting on the street in the freezing cold and decide to take her home with them. At home, we meet three other people: a granny, a middle-aged woman, and a young woman. Their names are Osamu, Shota, Yuri, Hatsue, Nobuyo, and Aki. The family relations are not clear, but during the first time watching this, I thought Hatsue was Nobuyo and Aki's mother, while Osamu was Nobuyo's partner and Shota their son. However, the further we progress, the more we realize that things aren't what they seem. It appears that Yuri is being abused at home, as her small body is already covered in scars and bruises. This is confirmed when Nobuyo and Osamu want to bring her back and overhear her parents having a fight about her disappearance. Since Yuri doesn't seem to be welcome, Nobuyo decides to keep her after all. The family lives in a small apartment. Osamu works as a day laborer on a construction site, and Nobuyo works at a laundry. Aki works at a fetish club using her sister's name, Sayaka, as a pseudonym. Wait, wasn't Nobuyo her sister? We'll get to that later. Hatsue is retired, living off her pension. Shota and Yuri don't go to school. Instead, Shota teaches Yuri how to shoplift. One day, Osamu returns from work with a sprained leg. He doesn't get compensation and loses his job. Osamu slowly integrates Yuri into their life of shoplifting, which Shota isn't too happy about. He preferred it when it was just two of them, and rejects Yuri as his little sister, which really hits her. Shota doesn't come home that night and Yuri blames herself, but the others tell her not to worry. Osamu finds Shota in a van and explains his reason for integrating Yuri, that it's easier for Yuri to feel less guilty about living with them if she can be useful. And while we already had subtle hints, we get the first big and obvious reveal that the family isn't actually related when Osamu tries to coax Shota into calling him dad. 2 months have passed and it's the first time that Yuri's been reported missing. Not by her real family though, but by child welfare services. It also turns out that her actual name is Judy. Since they pretty much have passed the point of no return, they cut Yuri's hair and change her name to Rin. On their way to shop new clothes for Yuri, there's another big reveal that the family is, in fact, not related when Hatsue claims she chose them. While they're shopping for new clothes, Yuri doesn't seem too excited. On the contrary, she seems rather scared, and we'll get back to that later as well. Some more months pass by. Yuri has opened up a lot and has become closer to the family, referring to Shota as her big brother. Unfortunately, Nobuyo loses her job and can't really do anything about it, because her colleague is blackmailing her by mentioning having seen her with a missing girl. Hatsue visits her dead husband's new family, and we learn that's how she's related to Aki. They're not related by blood, but she's the grandchild of her ex-husband. They have a nice day at the beach before things escalate. It's the last day together as a whole family. The next morning, Hatsue is dead and they bury her body inside the house by digging a hole in the ground. They also have to keep it a secret that she's gone, so that they can still cash in her pension, among other things, I suppose. When Osamu breaks into a car to steal valuables, Shota has conflicting feelings, because the rule for stealing was always clear: you only take what doesn't belong to someone else. As they run away, we learn that Osamu has saved Shota from a car when he was little. Anyways, shortly after, Shota takes Yuri shoplifting once again. However, since the small shop they usually steal from is closed, they go into a bigger supermarket this time. Since Yuri isn't as subtle as she thinks, Shota saves her by distracting the staff. He causes a ruckus to get the staff's attention, then steals something and runs off. Cornered on a bridge, he jumps down. But luckily, he doesn't die. He just breaks a leg. Osamu and Nobuyo come to the hospital to pick him up. However, the police are there as well and have some questions. Since Shota stole something, they ask his parents to follow them to the precinct. The two don't want to, or rather can't get involved with the police, so they bolt. Unfortunately, it seems like their behavior was a bit too suspicious, because when they want to secretly leave at night, they're caught by the police. The police question all members of the family. We learn that Osamu's and Nobuyu's real names are Enoki Shota and Tanabe Yuko. They killed Nobuyu's husband together and ran away. That's when they presumably met Hatsue and stayed with her. Aki probably ran away from home and joined them shortly after. Osamu found Shota in a car before Aki joined, but after they killed Nobuyu's husband. And then they found Yuri. Nobuyo takes all the blame and is sentenced to prison for corpse disposal and kidnapping for 5 years. Shota is put in a facility and visits school like a normal child, and Yuri is sent back home to her mom, where the abuse continues. Yuri touches her mother's bruised cheek with the intention of making her feel better. But unlike Nobuyo, who was grateful for Yuri's concern, her mother's reaction is rather different. Now we know why she was so scared when they were shopping for new clothes. Shota still spends time with Osamu, even though I don't know if they're allowed to, and they visit Nobuyo in prison, who tells Shota where he could potentially find his real parents. Later that night, Osamu confirms that they tried to run away without Shota, and Shota confesses that he let himself get caught on purpose before he gets on the bus back to the facility. However, where they have not much choice, it seems they don't really want to separate, with Osamu running after the bus and Shota finally calling him dad. It ends with Yuri playing by herself on a balcony, abandoned and alone once again. When I first thought about writing a script for this video, I thought there wouldn't be much to write about plot-wise, because everything in this movie feels so mundane, almost incidental. But the more I thought about the movie, the more I saw the purpose in each of these seemingly trivial scenes. Many big things are revealed in passing, raising a lot of questions which makes you keep watching despite the apparent banality. For example, the obvious child abuse that is never explicitly shown, or Yuri learning from a young age to lie to hide that abuse. Or when it's revealed that Osamu found Shota in a locked car near a pachinko hall. We don't know exactly what happened, but we can only assume that it might have been a hot day, and we all know how quickly the inside of a car heats up in summer. So similar to Yuri, Osamu probably thought it best to take Shota, who'd been clearly neglected by one of his parents, with him. Here are a few more examples. We already knew that their shoplifting wasn't a one-off thing, but this scene here implies that this basically is their way of living. And this scene here implies that they're basically fucked up. But why? At this point, we haven't learned much about them yet, and they haven't shown anything to suggest that they're bad people. Then we have Hatsue claiming she doesn't want a lonely death, which implies she would be all alone if it weren't for her found family. If she didn't allow these virtual strangers to live in her home, she'd have no one else. We don't learn much about Aki's past, but she obviously doesn't like herself. One of the reasons might be that she's been rejected by her quote-unquote real family. At this point, we still don't know about their criminal record, so it's quite obvious that they're hiding something. Yeah, I don't think any explanation is needed for this one. And last but not least, when Shota says he lived in a car, this implies that he might not just have been left in the car once, but may have been completely abandoned. The reason why I love this movie so much is because it doesn't have a happy ending. I only need happy endings in my gay dramas. Considering all the things that happen in the movie, it's the only realistic outcome. A happy ending would have been if they didn't get caught, snuck Shota out of the hospital, and lived happily ever after. But would that be the right thing to do? And that's the main question the movie left me with. What would have been the right thing to do? And to be honest, I haven't come to an optimal conclusion yet. Because we can't wipe their criminal history, and we can't steal children just because they're abandoned and neglected. But calling the police doesn't always help either. In the end, even if there's evidence of abuse, the kid might still have the misfortune of being returned to their abusive parents, or end up in the system. But is that so much better? Isn't it better to have a compassionate family that gives you the attention and shows you the affection, but can't offer anything else? Because frankly, if Shota and Yuri were to stay with Osamu and Nobuyo, they probably wouldn't have a perspective on the future. What with not going to school and all? It's obvious that Osamu and Nobuyo and pretty much everyone else in this family acted out of selfish reasons. They're all abandoned people who don't want to be alone, which is absolutely legit, but I also believe that they want what's best for the children, and they help with the means they have, which sadly isn't much. Instead of going to school, they learn how to shoplift from a young age because that's all Osamu knows how to teach. He wants to feel like a dad. He wants to be a dad, and Shota is the closest thing he'll ever get to a son. The same is true for Nobuo and Yuri, which leads me to the other topic I love about this movie, the found family trope. I'm a big fan of the found family trope, which at its core the movie is about, aside from the obvious moral dilemma of whether what they did was justified. As I mentioned before, going into this movie I thought they were all related by blood, with Yuri being the exception. I didn't question it because why should I? But it's also never explicitly mentioned that they are a family. I just assumed because they were people from different generations living under the same roof. But the further the plot progresses, the more we learn that this family isn't related by blood at all, and their true relations remain a mystery until the very end. Turns out they were just a bunch of random people who found each other, or to put it in Hatsu's words, they chose each other. The question Nobuo poses at the end is, in my opinion, a very important one. Does giving birth automatically make you a mother? Does having children automatically make you parents without putting in the love and dedication a child deserves? I mean, the short answer is yes. I guess having a child doesn't make you a parent per definition, but I believe just because you're related to people by blood, if they don't put in the effort, you don't have to accept them as your family. You don't owe them anything, especially when they don't treat you well. As Nobuo puts it so well, a family would never treat you like that. And unlike the people who took Yuri in and cared about her, Yuri's mother doesn't really know what her favorite food is. She claims it's omurice, when we've learned that it's actually gluten cakes. And I don't know what it's called in Japanese. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but the translation says gluten cakes, so that's what we're going with. But of course, just stealing a child isn't the right answer either. All things considered, the intentions of Nobuo and Osamu are wholesome, but their execution is problematic. In the end, the movie leaves us with food for thought. What would be the best or the right thing to do? If you've already seen this movie, let me know what you think in the comments below. If listening to random people talking about random stuff on the internet appeals to you, leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any topics you'd like to hear me ramble about, leave your suggestions in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!